Hello everyone, and welcome to Snowfell Charm School, where we use tarot cards to analyze personality, and we use personality to analyze relationships. I am going to start by adding a little bit of serotonin to the environment, um, which is essentially just a little bit of like ASMR. Um, sound and color. Presented in a certain way can invoke a bit of like inner tranquility so that it's supposed to serotonin is what is a chemical that allows you to sleep and eat comfortably. um it's more of a relaxing phase. So I'm going to use these two items. It's a little bit of the sound of the flowers, and then the coloring of the crystal. So I'm gonna imbue a little bit of that energy into, that's more like a welcoming. What's it like a little bit like, consider like a little bit of a parade. So we're gonna add a little bit of that. I want to say that I have a few announcements, I think. One, I was thinking about wearing my hat today, but I didn't know. Um, like, should I keep wearing it? Should I not keep wearing it? I'll put it on for just a second. I think it's really cute. It definitely gets that like witchy vibe. I mean, it's super cute, right? But I was feeling a little bit like, I feel like this is a little bit of a behind the scenes type of video. I want to try to explain a little bit of stuff. Like, I'm so in between of being like showy and stuff because I'm very histrionic, but also at the same time I want to like kind of like tell you why I'm doing this stuff. And sometimes when you tell other people why you're doing things, it kind of breaks the fourth wall, and that changes the level of like maybe serotonin, I suppose. But like I said before, like I'm changing a little bit of direction here, or like uh building a little bit more of focus. But anyway, all my personality reviews are done using the Big Five personality assessment, as well as the DSM-5 personality disorders. The personality disorders in the DSM-5, there are only 10, but I have a 12 personality type system that includes all of the disorders, but also two personalities that's going to be stable and social. Stable is going to be a little bit more of like the, um, I think at an extreme sense, if these were disorders, it would be a little bit catatonic, a little bit depressed, like definitely numb. It's very numb energy. Um, while social is going to be a little bit more manic energy, very like kind of like very open, very excited, very as far as the disorder goes, it could go a little bit into like an ADHD thing. I don't think ADHD is necessarily a disorder. um I think it is a, there's so much excitement to it. I personally can't see um, what's wrong with it. But that is like, and I always want to keep this disclaimer. Pay attention to who you're getting your advice from. I'm a histrionic, so I'm going to have a very high level extroversion, which means I'm going to have like a type of internal confidence. I like being seen, I like being showy and stuff like that, as well as agreeability. I like when everything is nice and comfortable. I'm not trying to start any trouble or anything like that. I want us all to have a good time. As a little bit like I say before, I'm basic. It's like, to be histrionic is a lot like or to be histrionic and wanting a histrionic type world, and we all want the type of world that fits our personality. But to live in a histrionic type world is like we're all kind of like circus performers. It's a little bit like a freak show. And so I'm going to so I'm likely going to praise you for your talents and also want to be praised for mine or your aesthetic or whatever it is that you're bringing to the freak show, basically. So if you're watching this and you do not want to embody or live in an environment that is a little bit more freak show-y, then I would say that this video is likely not for you. You can use the video as a little bit of educational thing to understand other personality types. We will talk about other personality types here. But I think that is a good lead into my announcement is that I am going to start focusing on histrionic individuals and the other two personality types that are similar. And by similar, I mean that I'm going to talk mostly about the three personality types that have high extroversion, high agreeability. And I also wanted to say that my personality reviews, although they are named after the disorders, we are not seeing them as disorders. We are looking at them as simply personalities. These are a spectrum of, it's a spectrum of under each of these titles. Now you can be an extreme of anything. You can be a misaligned version of anything, but I want to just kind of talk about like the key factors for you to identify yourself in a particular category. The three that I'm going to focus on, of course, is going to be histrionic, as well as borderline and social. And I do this because they have the high extroversion and they have the high agreeability, and in my perspective that is very ideal for also I wanted to say like a lot of things I want to say. I want to say that Snowfell Charm School is a temple of Aphrodite. We worship Aphrodite here. Everything that has to do with love, romance, connection, is going to be sex, beauty, artistry, all these things, all right? Poetry, all the romantic essences. And part of the romantic essences, if you follow the romantic era, is going to be deep appreciation for the world around us, very gratitude based. So that's why I wanted to do this little system so that we can together develop an understanding and acceptance of other personalities. There are personalities that aren't so compatible with each of these things, but it's important to know that just because it's incompatible doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it doesn't work for you in your particular world, all right? I'm not trying to get rid of any personality types. I'm not trying to change anyone who identifies as a personality type, but definitely not trying to change anyone who wants to identify as a personality type. If you want to identify as antisocial or schizoid or anything like that, then, you know, I'm here for it. What else was I trying to say? Yeah, so I use my tarot cards to lay out a case study for an imaginary client, so that we can identify their personality based on their background, their aspirations, and kind of like the environment around them. And then we'll talk a little bit about how that personality interacts with dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. Now, serotonin is I'll go through them a little bit. Serotonin is going to be your baseline for any pleasant interaction. You need serotonin. You need to be comfortable enough to eat or relax around someone in order to consider it a good relationship. Now, if you have a different idea of your ideal relationship, then I completely respect that. But here in the Temple of Aphrodite, like I said, all our relationships are based are going to have a basis of serotonin. All right. Um, so yeah, I will be, like I said, I'll be focusing on the three personality types that I described, but there's other personality types that interact with them and can bleed into each personality type. And I think that it's important that we have a good understanding of that. Um, Especially when it comes to dependent, avoidant, and stable. These are personality types that are often projected onto people. Not to say that it can't naturally happen, but these personality types seem to be very beneficial in our American landscape here. If you're from another country, welcome. This will definitely be more of an educational video for you on the culture here in America. Um, but there definitely seems to be some benefit to have a dependent person amongst our society, an avoidant person amongst our society, and a stable person amongst our society. And these are kind of they're interesting. I do think that the dependent and avoidant are used to work against each other, kind of to busy each other. The stable one is to enable these interactions according to my personal research. If you come up with some different theories or ideas, some concepts on that, I would be thrilled to read that in the comment section if you would be so obliging. Yeah, was there anything else I wanted to say here? I'll try to talk about some things to pay attention to avoid when it comes to other personalities, such as narcissist, antisocial, and obsessive. Um, in the way I'm grouping these personalities, they're grouped together. Okay, so there's a group of four. The last group, the fourth group, is going to consist of paranoid, schizoid, and schizotypal. Um, they tend to be a little bit out of this conversation. They're not really too concerned about dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. They probably don't have an idea, like they probably don't have like a concept or thinking that soulmates exist or should be something to pursue. They're a little bit more, I would say that those energies are going to be more survival based, and therefore they're too occupied to indulge in this romantic essence that I will be bringing to you in this video. Um, I think that might be everything I wanted to cover here. Um, so if I'm gonna lay out a case study. If we run into a personality type that is not borderline, histrionic, or social, I am going to kind of give instructions on how to be more like those three. All right, so those three are our focused group. So if you're watching this, then you do not want to be imbued or embody that type of romantic essence. I mean, the borderline, the histrionic, and the social are going to be the romantic personalities. Oh, that's what I should call it. Yes, the romantic group consists of those three. If you're not looking to be part of that group, or if you don't already identify as part of the romantic group, then I would suggest that another video might be more useful for you for your particular goals. This is not we're not going to talk about like how to be successful. We're not going, well, like we will talk about a form of success, but this will not be as far as financial gain. This will not be education on how to be better than anybody. This is not an educational thing to like work the system. I will not be teaching you how to manipulate anybody or anything. Um, I will not be this is not to I will not be fear mongering here. I will not be telling you who you should be staying away from. If I do think that if we do a case study and we find a client's personality, I will talk about some personalities that would not be ideally compatible from my histrionic personality perspective. Um, so whatever I say, please take with a grain of salt. Use your own discernment. You are the captain of your own ship. If you want to, I'm gonna try to give you as many options as possible. I'm gonna try to explain the likelihood of these options. You are welcome to pursue any adventure you wish to pursue. I feel like that's kind of the point of being alive, is for you to decide which adventure that you want to indulge in. Okay. Um, so I will be, as we go through it, if you're borderline, histrionic, or social, I will share a little bit of tips and tricks for like how to feel more pretty, how to feel more attractive, basically. Um, Although I would say that if you are in one of these three, if you're in the romantic category as a personality trait, you're already exceptionally gorgeous. Um, Already exceptionally gorgeous, and it's a privilege to be in your honor, or it's an honor and a privilege to be in your presence. Um, I love beauty. So thank you for having a personality type that is so beautiful to be in. Um, but I will teach some more like kind of like physical um, tips that you could use. Yeah, it's mostly just kind of like, well, a lot of my tips are going to be like really like embracing parts of yourself. But we'll get into it. I'm going to start shuffling, and I'll pull some cards for us to look at a case study. So yeah, this will not be like, this isn't a video talking about how to like be a better person, but like how to be a better you. And again, a lot of that is going to be based off your discernment and your work. I can't do all the work for you, but I can tell you everything that I know, and hopefully that will aid in your endeavors. Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit close to you for a second. I hope you don't mind. I like to shuffle over. I want to shuffle over. It's kind of like this bookshelf thing that I'm on, but I don't want to drop any cards because then I have to disappear and reappear. Have to, say I'm back. Greet you guys again. Not that it's a problem, but it does take up some time, and I want to fill that with some more valuable information. So please don't mind my closeness right now. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. If you're not having a wonderful day, then that might be a sign that you are not. No, I won't say that. If you're not having a wonderful day, then I will say that's your choice. and I completely respect it. I say that in all my videos, and I just wanted to just want to clarify what I mean by that is that everything is perspective based. That is my personal philosophy. Um, you will not see beauty if you do not want to see it. So if you are currently not seeing it, it's because you do not want to see it. Okay. So you drop some. Put that one here. Put this one here. And this one will be our client today. I'm going to show you the bottom of the deck. I'm going to try to incorporate it. The last few videos I have, it hasn't shown up to be like that important, but it's going to be the Five of Swords. So this could be the overall environment. I'm going to say this is the reason why our client has showed up today. Our client has showed up today because they're dealing with a lot of like conflict in their immediate environment. So this is someone who's like getting into fights, arguments, verbal disputes, things like that. And so we're going to look at our client and we're going to kind of see why that is. Our client today is going to be represented by the Elder of Cups. So this is someone that elders or kings, elders are very conscientious. So their priority is conscientiousness, organizing. I did a whole video on why I call them elders, adults, adolescents, and children. I might link it. I don't know. I don't know where it is actually. I didn't label it like that, but should probably do some videos on that, like specific videos on that. But the elders are all about conscientiousness, and the cups are all about agreeability. Conscientiousness, if you don't know, is like how well organized you are, and agreeability is how compromising you are. So this is someone who is organized, exceptionally organized, and compromising. So this is someone who's probably looking for like the best for everybody. Yeah, the best for everybody, or at least that's how they're being introduced. And I think it's really interesting that this is a person who's running into a lot of conflict. So we'll see why that is. As far as their background goes, so this is going to be like kind of like how they grew up, childhood, or yeah, it's going to be like how they grew up. So their past mindset or their baseline mindset is going to be represented by the Ace of Swords. So this is someone who grew up thinking that you had to be really smart. All right, this is someone who thinks that they have to be exceptionally smart, clever, or informed. Lots of communication, lots of connection. But for information basis. We also have for the aspiration is going to be the Six of Pentacles. So this is someone who wants the best for everyone, thinks that they should be like the smartest person, and they want to give to everybody. So this is giving me borderline again. I have a very strong affinity for borderline. Did I use that word right? Affinity? I'm very, very attracted to the borderline individual as a histrionic. So if you're watching this and you're histrionic, borderline seems to me to be the most compatible match. They're both, I mean, again, they're both for the borderline and histrionic seem like to be the perfect match. They're both in the romantic group, and yeah, the borderline represents the romantic part that will do for. So this is someone who would, you know, like when someone says like, I would bring you the moon and stars type of energy. This is someone who like, this would be a very poetic individual. This would be a very, like they would write you poetry or love letters. This is someone who um, gives affection, lots and lots of affection. Um, I think the reason why the histrionic works is because the histrionic is very, very receptive to affection. They show lots of gratitude, lots of support. So what happens is they build on their momentum. Like this one moves forward, this one moves forward, this one, it's like very much like they start orbiting each other in a very like consistent and continuous way. They just, because their energies can't help but do this. The borderline energy can't help but show affection, and the histrionic personality can't help but uh, announce it. They can't help but give gratitude for it. They one loves to give and one loves to receive, and by doing so, by receiving they give support, and by giving they receive support. That's how that works. Now, if you are social, or at least that's how it works in my perspective, um, the social seems like a good pairing with another social. And I do think that the borderline and histrionic, once interacting towards each other, will develop a coupling that's very social. Yeah. Um, Yeah, they'll, because they have a focus, so they don't need like the borderline doesn't need to save the entire world. Their focus is on one other person, and the histrionic person doesn't have to perform for the entire world. Their focus is another person. Um, so it kind of simmers both of them down in a sense. Not that it's wrong to be any of them, because there's nothing wrong with anything. Um, there's nothing wrong with anything. Um, they just as far as society goes, and like that's why I called the third romantic personality social, because this is basically your this is basically the personality type for socializing. All right, this group, the romantic group, is for socializing. It is the society personality. um the other ones just kind of exist in society or affect society in a certain way, but the core of society, um, at least in my perspective, is going to be the romantic personalities. Um, on one side, we have the Wheel of Fortune and the Moon. So this is someone who like I can see maybe like I think we're getting a little bit into why our borderline character here is being faced with a lot of conflict. It's I think it has to do with like kind of like this belief that things just kind of happen. Um, a little bit like luck based, like they never know what they're going to get. And I think especially when it comes to um relationships, because this is represented as the cup. So this is someone who's going to be cups oriented, at least in our case study today. So this is someone who is a little bit like, this is probably someone who's wondering how all of this happens. How do you meet somebody? Um, and I usually talk about family and friends in my videos, but I think we're going to maybe focus on um, like like a romantic I want to say a romantic relationship, and what I mean by a romantic relationship is that it's equal parts sexual and sentimental, equal parts Aphrodite Pandemonia and Aphrodite Urania. Um, these are the combination of these two things makes for a soulmate. In my perspective, you need that passion from Aphrodite Pandemonia, and you need the commitment from Aphrodite Urania. On the other side, so this is a person who's maybe a little bit confused of their relationships, of why it is that their relationships do end in conflict, and things like that. I do think that's rather common for a borderline personality, especially when it gets into disorder sense, where it seems like their romantic life is more like a battle, than like a um coming together. Like they constantly have to fight to prove their love type of thing. And which, again, this is why I'm very, very, very enamored with the borderline individual, because yeah, to use that energy to fight for a romantic situation is just so, it's just so romantic. It's just so damn romantic. Um, Anywho, on the other side, we have the Six of Cups, and the Two of Cups. So lots of cups, lots of water energy, at least in the surrounding energy and the center, our client here. So this is going to be someone who has like a very I very it's giving me like the Disney effect. Um, so this is someone who could have grown up reading or watching or hearing about like a fairy tale type of union, especially with the Two of Cups here. Um, so this is probably someone like kind of wondering why it doesn't happen, or if it does happen with the moon and the Wheel of Fortune on the other side. Um, and I would say so I'm going to take a moment to talk about that a little bit. Um, And I do think that when we talk about relationships in a modern sense, even like when it's like kind of like tips on like attracting other people, or like I see lots of dating tips, especially for women or femininely identified individuals. And it's a lot of like kind of like red flags to look for and things like that. And I do think that that is rather helpful, but I do wonder what personality type we are doing that for. Um, I think that each personality type has a red flag that they're looking for, and each personality type has a green flag they're looking for. I don't believe in like a cookie cutter type of thing. And I do think that a lot of relationship advice, I think I think a lot of relationship advice doesn't consider personality. Um, there's not a big consideration on whether or not you guys are naturally compatible, or willing to be compatible. I think that there's just some personality types that just don't work with other personality types, and it has nothing. There's no tips and trick that's going to convince a someone who's not compatible with you to magically be compatible with you. And there's probably not a lot of tricks and tips that are going to sit right with you so that you decide to change in some way or another. And I do think that if you do any tips and tricks to change yourself for a momentary type of thing, like a date, then you're kind of putting it, they might word it as putting your best foot forward, but you're not putting your real foot forward. And I think that's very, very important to do. I think that a lot of people talk about like things not to say or things to ask, and some of them can be really helpful, but I definitely think that's a slippery slope into masking your personality. And the only way for your personality to be appreciated is for you to show it. um I also think that when it comes to relationship counseling, now I've watched a little bit of reality couples therapy type of thing, and it's all, it's all good fun, and I'm not going to say that this is a clear representation of what marriage counseling is, even though they are presenting it as if it is something that you would likely run into if you are if you're deciding to go through with couples counseling. But I definitely think that the goal in couple counseling is to get you on some neutral terms, or like a neutral foundation. Now, this could be really good if this could be really good, but it changes like the things that you're compromising with. Now, if you have someone who is high in extroversion, high in agreeability, and then you have someone who is low in extroversion and low in agreeability, what's going to happen is that you're going to try to meet in the middle, which, raises one person but lowers the other. And I think that's something to really consider. The person who is high in something is going to sacrifice it for anyone who is low in something. Now, this again, you can choose to do that, but now that I know this information, I would not choose anyone who I would have to lower myself for. I'm lucky enough to say that because I'm already in a histrionic personality perspective. Um, so, so like if I was in a relationship with someone who was dependent or avoidant, um, it does seem like what the goal is in counseling is, you don't want to target someone and be like, you're the one doing everything wrong. But at the same time, like, and I wouldn't do that if I was a counselor. I would say, like, it doesn't seem like you guys are on the same level. You guys aren't compatible. And I do think that happens a lot because um, there's a lot of guilt in not giving people a chance when it comes to romance. And I think that's really setting you up if you're on a higher level of these traits. Is setting you up to humble yourself, and that's not something that we want to do here in the Temple of Aphrodite. Not only is it about love, but it's about beauty, and that can be very vanity oriented. And I want you as my audience to maintain your vanity. um so yeah, and especially because you can, there's lots of like there's there's lots of things that people can do to convince you to be in a relationship. And I think the easiest one is to like kind of start a family. And I think a lot of like people who go through couple counseling already have a family. But again, this is a little bit like you kind of have to like, it's definitely not the ideal situation. I couldn't do it because I would definitely see someone and be like, you have qualities that would promote a soulmate type of relationship, and I would hate to convince you to give that up because you spent some time with someone already. um Soulmate stuff is not an age-based thing. It's not like after high school or whatever, or when you get to 60, the chances of you having a soulmate is lower. That I don't believe in that. It really has to do with your discernment in your choices, right? You have to make good choices. Um, again, it's important for you to understand who is compatible and who is not compatible. You can't make anyone change, and I don't think that you should change. And when it comes to compromising, it's already, that's a type of change. And compromising to better yourself is great, but compromising to lower yourself, it just doesn't seem that good to me. Um, yeah, it doesn't seem that good to me. Like if someone would say like, hey, if you want this relationship to work, you're gonna have to you have to not be so flamboyant. That would rub me the wrong way. If someone said that to me during marriage counseling, I would say, okay, well, I don't want this relationship anymore. Then, if that's the only way for that to happen, then I'm not going to sacrifice my air of drama to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But you can decide for yourself if you want to do that. I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing to do. It's just I'm saying that's not what I would want to do because of who I am, who I value, the deity that I worship does not is not comparable. I would be sacrificing too much of myself for a relationship that wouldn't even be a soulmate relationship. We couldn't have that energy without my drama. It's not the relationship I want. On the far end, where it's kind of where we talked a little bit about like we're not sure. So I'm guessing that our client here is in a relationship that is not compatible. And I would say that because the borderline individual is high in extroversion, high in agreeability. If you are high in agreeability and you're in an environment or in a relationship that is disagreeable, it will counter out your agreeability and emphasize your extroversion. So conflict will arise, and this is why borderlines can be very explosive at the idea of rejection or not being appreciated. And I think that would be very interesting if people were like, if you went to couple counseling and did an assessment about your personality, we could maybe get a better idea of what your needs are without you having to like kind of scramble to figure out what your needs are. Especially because there's so much guilt put on other people when it comes to their needs. So if you rely heavily on another person to express all their needs without any type of like reassurance that they are allowed to have those needs, they will humble their own needs as a filtering device. Anywho, so when it comes to the aspect of like kind of thinking that love is kind of luck based, we have the adult of Pentacles and the Star. Now, the adult of Pentacles, all the adults are about agreeability. And with Pentacles, it's very similar to the King of Cups or the Elder of Cups in aspects. But this one prioritizes agreeability, and their secondary effect is conscientiousness. So this is someone who, wants to be agreeable or wants to be compromising or uses their organization to continue to be compromising. And we also have, the Star here. So this is maybe someone who is like kind of like looking for that type of individual that kind of like really does match. Like I would definitely say that the adult of Pentacles could easily be the histrionic type of energy. Yeah, easily. Um, Due to the material things of being agreeable, and that's basically beauty, pretty things, colorful things, pleasant things, delightful things, comfort in a sense. Yeah, very comfort. So this is someone who is looking for looking for a comfort oriented individual. And maybe their conflict is that they keep trying with people who are not comfort focused. So that could be a reason why this person is being faced with so much conflict. And then we have on the side of like kind of having like that dreamy type of fantasy, the romantic fantasy type of energy. We have the Eight of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles. So this is someone who is like maybe like has a lot of energy, but doesn't know where to put it. And I think this makes a lot of sense. This is someone who's like really trying to give, really trying to give, really trying to give, but no one seems to appreciate what they're giving. And I think, on the opposite side, like they're looking for someone who is going to be appreciative. So where does that leave us? Now we got the whole case study. That's all the cards I have. Well, that's all the cards I have for a case study. We can pull out some, maybe before my other deck was used as a gratitude deck to show gratitude to the personality type, but I think we're going to shift that into more of a like what as us as the advisor are going to like question or bring to their attention, like to kind of get them, to kind of like steer them in the right direction based off the goals that they have presented to us. Now, this person has a clear goal of wanting to be with someone who is comforting. Oh, they're so cute. The Adult of Pentacles with the Elder of Cups, that's so cute. They really do have that kind of like perfect pairing. Yeah, very, very, very pretty. Um, I guess, well, I want to say, I want to talk a little bit about the dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, but maybe I'll pull some cards and we'll talk about those chemicals as well as a little bit like we're going to kind of treat these as like a little questionnaire, like a short questionnaire. Sorry, I dropped some things. Had to pick that up. Kind of like picking flowers, though, if you think about it. And that's what I mean by like changing your perspective. Anything can be worth doing if you have the right mindset. Oh, there it is. All right, so it's going to be a short 4-item questionnaire. The first question is, this is going to be like, well, I guess this is going to be like, how do you see yourself? How do you want to be seen? Just kind of like I was talking about before, like if I had to be in a relationship and I went into like couples counseling and the counselor said like, maybe you should work on not being so dramatic. Then they wouldn't say it like that. I'm not saying anyone would say it like that. But if my partner was like, if they were like, they're just so, if they said something like, they're just so, yeah, they said that, my partner's just so dramatic and I wish that they would just calm down and like kind of like if there's someone was saying like my drama and flamboyancy kind of stresses them out, maybe like even I'm trying to think of it like in a public setting, like they're so like if someone was like, oh, they're so attention seeky, they're always drawing attention to themselves and it makes me feel some type of way, get jealous or whatever. And then the therapist said something like, okay, are you willing to compromise on that? Well, are you willing to not wear the extravagant outfit when you go out? Are you willing to not, are you willing to not speak so flirtatious with everybody? Are you willing to do that? I would say no. I would say no, I'm not. And I'm like, I'm signing for a divorce right now. That's what I would say. But I would say it's based off of like, how do I want to live my life? Like, how do I want to live my life? And I want to live my life I want to live my life with the air of so much charm, just so much charm and dazzlement and very pretty. Like, I'm a big Pokemon fan, right? And the fairy type was introduced in Generation 6 or something like that. And there's so many moves, like there's a move called Charm, there's a move called Dazzling Gleam, there's a move called like what's another one? Baby Doll Eyes. There's a move called like Sweet Scent, like all these things. And this is how I want to live my life forever, forever. Like, if at my passing, I want to be buried with as many roses as possible. You know, I want to rest in peace for the rest of my time in a bouquet. You know, this is what I mean by like trauma, very attention seeking, very like, and I'm okay with saying that I'm attention seeking and dramatic. I am. I'm very attention seeking and dramatic. I want the most beautiful things. I want, I want the most beautiful things. I want pretty things. I want to wear pretty things. I want to be out wearing pretty things. I want people to compliment on my pretty things, and then I want to compliment them on their pretty things. You know, I want to live a life of beauty. And if I had to compromise that in a relationship, that's how I would know that that's not the relationship for me. So for this questionnaire is going to be asking you if you're borderline, if you identify as borderline, or you're starting to feel identity connection to borderline. I would say, how do you want to live your life? And are you putting yourself in a relationship that humbles that ideal self of yours? If you're borderline and you want to say in your relationships, like, I want to, I want to take them out on surprise dates. I want to bring them a bunch of flowers. I want to buy them little things. I want to see something that reminds them of. I want to see something that reminds me of them and bring it to them and feel really good about doing that. Like if your whole thing is like, I want to give, I want to make other people happy and blah blah blah. If you're in a relationship in which they're not happy with your actions, that's gonna be your indicator that you're not in the right relationship. You're gonna be able to say that this person's not compatible with me because they do not align with my higher self. You know, if your thing is like, if you're borderline, you're like, I want to get really dressed up and go out on a night of the town and have a really great time and all that stuff. And, if you're with a partner who doesn't want to do all that stuff, then they're not compatible, basically. We also have the Six of Swords as our second item in our questionnaire. And this is going to be like, this is going to be a little bit of a walk down memory lane. It's going to be like, this is probably a deep question for a questionnaire, but I'm going to say, like, kind of like, think about the relationships that you were in before and think about all the things you wanted to do that you couldn't do. Are you willing to go back to that? That's a good question, I think. Are you willing to continue doing that? Like, if you brought someone a box of chocolates and they're like, I hate I hate assorted chocolates or whatever, but the reason why you got it was because it was in a big old heart box and you thought that was cute and you wanted to, brighten their day or whatever. Do you want to continue with that? Do you want to continue giving something that's not being appreciated if it is that if you're in that situation? But I would definitely think for this questionnaire, like, think about the relationships that didn't work and think about how that relationship stopped you from being your highest self. And I think that's going to be your indicator as the reason why it didn't work and what it is that you're looking for later on. Yeah, it's basically saying, like, what did you do that wasn't appreciated that you wanted to continue doing? So, and think about that. And so when you run into someone, you keep doing the things that you want to do. I think that's the whole point, is keep doing these things that you want to do that wasn't appreciated before. And when someone doesn't appreciate it, okay, well, I'm going to move on from this that didn't work out. They don't like that. I don't like them. And then you just keep bringing that energy to people until someone is appreciative of it. And then you're like, okay, yeah, well, this is great. This person appreciates this. I'm already attracted to them. I think this would be a perfect relationship to invest in. That type of thing. Like, for me, it would be like, if I got all dressed up and my partner was like all night, say it was a date, like all night long they talked about how beautiful I looked. That would be something to invest in. That would be something to invest in. If they talk about, like, if they say something like, I can't wait to see what you wear next time, or something like that, then, something like that. Or if they say like, wow, everyone really loves you, and that makes me love you even more, that's the energy that I would go with. Yeah, that's the energy I would go with. The third item in our questionnaire is going to be represented by the Wheel of Fortune. And so this is going to be I guess this is going to be a question of like, do you think that, like, okay, I guess the question could be like, say for instance, things do just happen by chance. How are you going to know when to jump on that opportunity? And I think that kind of wraps in the first two questions. And like if everything is by chance, we'll just go by that. I personally think that everything happens for a reason. But if you do think that everything happens by chance, then um, what was I gonna say? If you think that everything happens by chance, um, how are you preparing yourself for the opportunity that's going to show up? Um, like when an opportunity does show up, what are you going to do? So if I'm if I'm just walking around or whatever, and by chance someone is like, oh my gosh, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life, I love your outfit, something like that, um what would I do to um this is fun because I never thought about this. But what would you do to kind of like solidify that relationship? And I guess my answer would be to like I guess my answer would be to, well, okay, I think this is really simple. If someone gives you a compliment, the I was gonna ask you what are you supposed to do? But you're not really here and you can't really answer that. But if someone gives you a compliment, you say, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." Yeah, you say thank you so much. Basically, if someone likes what you're wearing, you say, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." Um, and then you could tell them where you got it. Yeah, in case they wanted to get the same thing too. Um, in a romantic sense, it would be like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." Um, you could give a little bit of like, you could thank you so much, you're such a charmer, something like that. Oh, something like, thank you so much, you flatter me. Something a little bit like, I guess it's a little bit, especially for the histrionic borderline type of ideal relationship, at least for me. It would be that's so kind of you to say. Um, you know, um, thank you so much. I worked so hard on this. Like, just kind of showing like appreciation. I think some people could be like, oh my gosh, you're the most beautiful thing, or whatever. And I guess some people would be like, ah, you wish you could. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I would be, yeah, thank you. That's the simplest thing. I feel like there might be something else to go, but if you're borderline, I'll stop talking about the histrionic one for a second. But borderline, if you run into someone, like you do something for someone and they appreciate what you do, your reaction should be, I guess, to continue to do it. These are kind of simple. I thought that question was going to be a little deeper than it is. But yeah, if you're histrionic and someone gives you a compliment, you show your gratitude. If you're giving someone something and they appreciate it, um, you continue to give it to them, you know? Yeah, you continue to give it to them as long as they're appreciative of it. If they stop being appreciative of it, then you stop providing that thing. You know, very simple. Um, yeah, that one's very simple. Um, I guess I would say for the borderline, definitely don't second guess it. Um, hmm. I think as a histrionic, I think it's very important for me to be very clear that I appreciate that compliment coming from that particular person. So I could be like, I could say something like, well, that's exceptionally flattering coming from someone like you, or as handsome as you, or as beautiful as you, or as stylish as you, or, that's a high compliment coming from someone of your obvious stature, something like that. I should say stuff more like that. See, even as histrionic, sometimes I'm not really aligned in how um, I am to get to um, the destination, I guess. Um, so yeah, that's such a high compliment coming from someone of your stature. Hmm, 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 hmm. The opportunities I missed out on, the borderlines I've run into, and that's how you'll know. As a histrionic, you'll know because they'll give you a compliment like willingly and then not pressure to get something in return. Ah, ah, just thinking about the times when I could have been like, ah, what could I have said in that situation? I had a boss one time give me a compliment, and I should have, well, that's a little bit like it can get, that can be a little bit of an inappropriate situation, but they were already dating like an employee or whatever, so you know. Well, but they were already dating someone, so yeah, that's probably a good reason why I didn't humor that as much as I could have, because they were already in a relationship, and I don't want to get in the mix of that. It gets really dangerous and not very fun at all. Um, but never mind, not about me. And my last question for the questionnaire is going to be the Two of Swords. So this is gonna be a little bit like, it's a little bit like, are you willing to shift focus? Are you willing to not put so much effort into, excuse me, a little confirmation burp, into those who do not appreciate you, and move it into people who, like, it's a little bit like, for the borderline, it's going to be a little bit of, um do you want to keep pouring to people that you actually do not value, or do you want to pour into people who you do value that might seem a little bit more of a high risk situation? And I think this is a little bit the same thing with me and, being histrionic and, interacting with borderline individuals, because they seem so high value. It is a little bit intimidating. I'm not going to lie to you. Especially with, I mean, even with someone with such high confidence as I do, um, it's a little bit like, yeah, it's a little bit of a high risk type of situation because you don't want to mess it up because you can already see their value. And if it doesn't work, then you kind of convince yourself that it has something to do with you. Just like I was saying before, like all the things I didn't say that I could have said, or maybe I said exactly the right thing. Um, because I'm not very filtered in what I say, especially when it comes to compliments or flattery. I'm very open about it. Um, and yeah, I do, because yeah, when someone does give me a compliment, I tend to kind of like m- like move forward into it. And I do think that some people aren't expecting me to like kind of lean into it, and that can be intimidating to other people. Um, but you kind of have to do it. So yeah, I would say like, yeah, if you're histrionic and you're watching this, and you're lucky enough to run into a borderline, yeah, don't be afraid to be like, a little bit flirty when it comes to their compliment. Like, yeah, There's someone says like, "Oh my gosh, I love your perfume," and be like, "Okay, would you like a a closer sample?" um, or always, if someone gives you a compliment, you kind of you smile, you make eye contact, you shift your body weight a little bit, and you say thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Um, and you pause a little bit. And this is a little bit of like, I guess it's a little bit of a tip, but it's not something that I do consciously. It's never anything that I thought of consciously. I'm only recognizing it now in my little like pretend, oh, well, maybe that's a good tip. If you're histrionic, um, practicing accepting a compliment is actually pretty fun. Um, Imagining yourself in a romantic situation is also really fun. Um, which I think if you're histrionic is going to be rather easy for you. Um, if you're borderline, then then I guess you could do the same thing. I don't know if borderline is I don't know if borderline easily portrays characters as well as histrionic does, but they could also um, imagine themselves in a romantic situation and kind of imagine the response that they're looking for, um and like kind of play on that. So it's kind of like for the histrionic is going to be a more of like you're practicing your tongue, and for the borderline is going to be a little bit like you're practicing your ear. um so you can watch movies and read books and listen to music and kind of get an idea. I would say that movies and books are going to be a little bit better. Music is a little bit more subliminal. Like they're kind of trying to tell you already what you're supposed to respond or what you're supposed to hear. But I think movies and books give you opportunities to see the reaction. Also, be careful with the books and stuff that depending on who writes it or whatever, you'll get different ideal situations, but it has to do with the personality of the person who's writing it. Um, Unless they are really good at portraying a different type or multiple types of personality. So if it's written by a histrionic, that could be fun. But they're probably going to make everything a little bit romantic and everything. Um, yeah, or a little bit flirtatious or sexual and everything. So, be careful, depending on, pay attention to what your goal is, and then kind of always pay attention to what your goal is and see if that aligns with your goal. Um, yeah, I would say as a borderline, yeah, look at those questions that I said, but honestly, you're going to continue being a borderline individual. You're going to continue doing what you do. You're going to continue moving mountains for people. And you're just going to keep an ear out for those who cheer your name. Kind of like that Hercules thing, or not thing, but the Hercules scene when he defeated the Hydra and everyone lifted him up and carried him out of the cavern or whatever. You're going to be looking for that type of energy. All right. So if you're borderline and you're interested in somebody, do something really cool for them, and or give them something, or give like a compliment even, and then see how they react. If they react by leaning into you, that's a good candidate to continue trying with. Um, and the bigger um, your display of affection is, the bigger their reaction should be. All right. So that's going to be like, you're going to Basically, you're going to engage if you're getting what you're giving. You know, if you defeat a monster and all they do is something like that, then that's not a good candidate for you. If you defeat a monster and they're jumping up and down, oh my god, I can't believe you did that. Oh my god, you're so amazing. You're so strong and handsome and wonderful. You know, then you know you got yourself a good. You definitely have someone who's really good. If they do, if they if they perform if they praise more than the task seems is worth it, I would, you know, I would keep an eye on it. Everyone's idea of value is different, but you don't want to be tricked into doing, you don't want to be tricked with it's if it's like if you give someone like a single rose or something like that and they jump up and down and say like, oh my gosh, you're the most amazing, most successful, blah blah blah, and it doesn't really seem to align with the task, you could be being love bombed. So I would definitely see if there is some like alignment with your actions and their actions. Um, yeah, if you do the bare minimum and they act like you brought down the sun, then you might be love bombed, or they just might be exceptionally appreciative. I don't know which one is which, but time will tell. Yeah, don't for all my people looking for love, don't be afraid to take some time with it. Um, it's not going nowhere. All right. And if you're worried that the world's going to end tomorrow and you're not going to have a chance of it or whatever, then your priority isn't romantic. Your priority is, you know, paranoid, schizoid, or schizotypal. All right. So you're not going to be in that energy. You're not going to be in the romantic energy to accept a loving relationship. And you have to be in that. You have to be like everything's going to be fine. You have to already be in a prosperous type of energy. Um, well, I think that might be everything I have for you guys. Um, yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, that's completely your choice, and I completely respect it. If you do have any questions or anything, please feel free to leave them in the comments or any comments, or if you have any questions or anything, definitely look for other perspectives. There's yeah, look for other perspective, looks for other forms of clarification. My perspective is not a universal perspective. It is a histrionic perspective. It is a romantic perspective. I can only give advice in this area, all right? This is my expertise, all right? But other than that, I hope that you have a wonderful morning, day, afternoon, evening, or night. If you do not wish to have a wonderful morning, day, afternoon, evening, or night, that's your choice, and I completely respect it. Okay, guys, until next time.